shores and look at the subject of home affairs and the criminal justice system, because the past couple of weeks has seen a deluge of edicts, so-called policy changes, and the obvious deployment of smokes and mirrors. A consultation is out on updating the operations and response guidance for police, and it runs until the 14th of October. And I thought I would just draw your attention to the fact that it includes terrorist attacks, severe weather emergencies, and major public events where something has gone wrong. Now, in an effort to deal with situations that might be perceived to have gone wrong or are about to go wrong, the Home Secretary has been busy announcing the rollout of 10 new vans for 7 new police forces that are going to be carrying out live facial recognition. Now, she talks about it like there's absolutely nothing wrong with this and there are no consequences, but of course there absolutely are. It was been described in the statement that they will operate according to strict rules, which ensure that they are only deployed when there is specific intelligence. And the College of Policing has guidance on how the technology should be used. I would put it that on the balance of probability, it's very unlikely to turn out that way. The College of Policing guidance on live facial recognition states that each face that is found is mapped by software, taking measurements of facial features, such as the distance between the eyes and the length of the jawline, to create a unique set of biometric data. So there's no ambiguity. This absolutely does represent a harvesting process of biometric data. Now, at this point, therefore, I would point you towards the Information Commissioner, because it is pointed out on his website that you may make a subject access request. And I quote, "The right of access also entitles the requester to a copy of their personal information. When you use biometric recognition systems," so this is the deployer of a facial recognition system, "this includes personal information, such as a biometric sample, as well as any biometric data, such as a biometric template." So the system, I would say, as it currently stands, would be unable to cope with a large volume of subject access requests. And there'll be a link to all of this in the show notes. So I think from a journalistic perspective, UK Column will be very interested in any reports that might come in of the way in which subject access requests that you might put in concerning live facial recognition are dealt with. And this could be a considerable method by which the system can be challenged. Now, on a very much related note, there's been a change put forward by the Ministry of Justice, and they're describing it as to restrict sex offenders from entering geographical zones. Now, this is in effect geofencing, which is the process of monitoring an individual by GPS to ensure that they do not move beyond the bounds of such an area. But it seems from what they're saying, these areas could be made to be very small, which of course conditions people into considering that justice has never really been served. And I would say that it looks like it's normalising confinement by these sorts of remote systems, linked again to this and tied into the ever-quoted plan for change, is the much-vaunted plan to deport immediately. But this is why I refer to smoke and mirrors, because Section 32 of the Border Act 2007 deals with exactly this issue, deportation of foreign criminals. And subsections 4 and 5 talk about for the purpose of the Immigration Act 1971, the deportation of a foreign criminal is conducive to the public good, and the Secretary of State must make a deportation order in respect of a foreign criminal. So this is something that's being dressed up as a new policy or new bit of law. In actual fact, it's not. It's a failure to act on the law that was already in place. Now, a statement also on deportation, pointing to what the immigration white paper will do, as though this really is a silver bullet by Shabana Mahmood, and again, using disingenuous language every time, as though they've sort of made it up in the first place. But to harness, or to continue to harness, the emotive subject of racial and ethnic tensions, the National Police Chiefs Council have put out guidance saying that they're going to consider disclosing the ethnicity and nationality of suspects when they are charged in high-profile and sensitive investigations. Now, this, of course, relates back to the events immediately after the attacks in Southport last year, at which point it was deemed that it could have been expedient to had the police actually put details out in relation to ethnicity. But of course, this is being misreported because we're only talking about this happening at the point of charge. And indeed, police still retain control of the decision-making process, so there's every chance that it could continue to be carried out in such a way that absolutely does fuel the fire for what they're calling disinformation. Now, with Palestine Action arrests in mind, I would just draw attention to the Crime and Policing Bill, which is currently going through the Houses of Parliament now. And Section 10, of course, talks about the offence of trespassing with the intent to conduct a criminal offence, which would carry a maximum sentence of only 3 months. Now, hypothetically speaking, had the Palestine Action Bryce Norton activists been stopped short of painting the aircraft that they did subsequently paint, they would not be a proscribed organisation today. So I would say it presents an obvious issue when considering the different outcomes, and it would look as though it would open the door to pressure on police to allow an intended crime to go ahead, because the consequences would be more severe. And just as a closing note, just to point you towards what's called the AI Plan for Justice, and here we have the issue of pre-crime absolutely writ large, which is saying that they're going to be driving the responsible adoption of AI to enable people to deliver world-leading public services. What they really mean is just handing over control of absolutely everything to a computer and not experiencing any comeback. But they talk about a violence predictor analysing different factors. This is concerning violence in prisons. So, in effect, just handing all responsibility, all control to the system. And indeed, it covers the wider justice system. But of course, the main point to fall out of it is that whilst it says that it's not going to take away from what judges do as people, and indeed cites several other bodies, prosecutors and whatnot, it does not make any reference to juries, of course. So I will wrap that up there. And